Yo guys, what's up? Ben Ababi here and welcome back to the last episode of 2024, and that is my yearly roundup. So today's episode is going to be broken down into a few different sections. There are going to be no hands today. It's going to be raw results, thoughts and feelings. So we're going to start off with all my graphs. That's going to include GG, that's going to include ignition, it's going to include some anti. We're then going to be looking at all of my rate back and bonuses broken down by section. We're then going to look at kind of what my goals were at the beginning of the year and kind of where I am at now in reflection of those goals. And then we're going to finish off with a bit more kind of like performance and mental game and that kind of stuff, as I think that that has been a very important point this year. And before we jump on into it, please do go ahead and drop me a sub if you haven't already. We're going to start with the overall result of 2024. So as you can see, we lost $20,600 in green line. I'm not going to lie, it feels rough as a long-time professional who has always posted, for the most part, pretty decent winning years, to say that I have had a losing year pre-rate back. Technically, we did actually have a winning year if we're taking our EV win rate, which is probably what we should do, and we won about $38,000 there. We did play a pretty okay 286,000 hands as well. So before we jump on into a little bit more of like the bad news, I want to start with the very good news, and that is my 1K and 2K GG results, which is basically the bread and butter games for me these days. So in those games, again, a relatively small sample, we did actually have an EV win rate of about 2.9 big blinds per 100. Now back to a bit more of the bad news, let's take a look at my ante results for the year. So ante, we got completely blasted. Number of reasons why I think that might have happened. As a general, wasn't playing the strategy that well, I don't think, and we did lose around 35k. Now, just quickly going back to the overall graph of the year, I didn't actually mention the buy-ins for the year, and we lost around 40 buy-ins, and then you can see what the orange line was up. However, we need to account for ante because basically, for those of you that don't play ante, it's a 200 big blind buy-in. Open sizes are bigger and 3-bets are bigger as well. It runs a lot more like one stake up than it does the stake that it is running at. So win rates and loss rates will always be kind of halved to adjust to the stake. If I adjust to the stake, then actually for the year, my green line was around minus 21 buy-ins instead of like minus 40. And my orange line was at around plus 26 buy-ins or so for the year. So that's just like kind of a rough estimate at adjusting for ante and the big blind win rates there. And then lastly, I think the most important graph to show is my ignition graph. Obviously, we did make the collusion and botting video this year as well. So as many of you know, I was playing ignition for about 5 or 6 months, went away to the UK, didn't play, and then played for like maybe another month when I got back and got pretty smoked. So we did lose around 40-ish K and we ran about 40K below EV there. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a moment. So that's everything to do with the graphs, but obviously we need to look at the lion's share of this year's profit, and that is BBJ, to be honest, but also rate back and bonuses. So in BBJ, we made $81,847, which is completely obscene, obviously. In general rate back, we made $40,141. In leaderboards, we made $8,690. In envelopes, we made $9,550. And in GG Care, we made $3,228, which puts us at a grand total of the year at around plus 130,000 USD. So those are all my results for the year, and it is pretty rough posting those graphs to everyone on the internet, but you know what? This is all about transparency, so here we are. I think we need to call a spade a spade. I got bailed out by the BBJ this year. Obviously, like, I have EV from the BBJ, and I'm not sure what that amounts to exactly, but I would say everything kind of accounted for, like EV and BBJ and all that kind of stuff, I probably would have made about 60 or 70K, all things considered. One thing I will mention, and this is something that people have been asking a bit more and more recently in my YouTube comments and maybe my Discord as well. Perhaps it's because they are kind of new to the channel and they don't know who I am or kind of like the games I play or how long I play for and that kind of stuff. The question I keep getting is like, how are you making things work when you seemingly post only losing graphs or break-even graphs? And I think that's a really good question because this has been a period of unprecedented losing graphs for me as a professional poker player. What I would say to those people that are kind of looking in and kind of being a bit confused by like, how are you continuing to play, is that overall, I would say that the content, the poker content that people are consuming, or just generally in social media, is like the best of the best. Now, just to keep it really simple, I would just say that what you are witnessing, what you are viewing is the reality of being a professional poker player. You are, when you have a very long career as a professional poker player, I've been playing professionally for 15 years, you just are going to have a bad year at some point in your career. Now, there are going to be so many poker players watching this video and maybe in your friendship circles and that kind of thing who are going to say, Ben is deluded, he's just kind of like washed, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But speak to any kind of like seasoned professional who's been playing for a long time, they are going to tell you the same thing, or take a look at Prime Dope or something like that. But let's talk about the goals and how things have gone this year from that perspective. So I know a lot of what I've just said sounds like making excuses or justifications, but now I'm going to kind of look at things from the other side of the coin and think a little bit about where did things go wrong this year from more of an objective standpoint. So I think my first mistake this year was that I played too little volume for maybe the first 6 months of the year. So off the back of last year where I took high stakes, I was playing a lot of 5K and 10K and I lost like quite a lot and I basically found it pretty stressful. I was in need of like a real slowing down with poker and kind of focusing a little bit more on other things outside of poker to give myself a bit of like a recuperation period. What I noticed by playing lower volume was that there was a lot more emphasis on things having to go well in those periods, and then also a bit more of a sense of feeling rusty rather than feeling really dialed in. After about 6 or 8 months, I started playing a lot more volume and a lot more consistently. And I've really noticed a huge improvement with my ability to, well, play my best, which is obviously the #1 component to being a profitable poker player. And the second and most important thing that I think I dropped the ball on, at least for the first 3 months of the year, was not showing enough curiosity. Now, I talked about curiosity a couple of times in previous videos, particularly in the video with Easty a couple of weeks ago. It's just kind of more of a reminder that, like, for you to be able to show curiosity, you probably need to slow down in some kind of shape and form so that you're actually able to have the capacity to show interest, and something I will talk about in future videos. But curiosity basically is linked to effectively not autopiloting. Now, at the beginning of the year, I was playing a lot more ante, and as we know in ante, the number of variables in comparison to 6max is insane. Basically, autopiloting is unacceptable in those games. Now, I don't want to be like too harsh on myself because I think compassion is really, really important, but I just have this quite strong sense that the fact that I was playing low hours coupled with a game that I was like not familiar with, coupled with a level of burnout, I think this kind of culminated in like an overall lack of desire to be playing my very, very best. However, in the last 3 months or in the latter part of the year, I 100% feel like I have been playing my best, which is obviously a very positive place to be. So moving on to performance and mentality. And I gotta say, this is the only time in the video that I am going to really pat myself on the back and say that I think that my mental game this year has been next to none and basically bulletproof. One of the things that I've been holding on to this year, and maybe this is a bit of a weird thing to say, is that every single month that goes badly and I kind of like keep showing up, I have this sense in the back of my mind that says other people wouldn't be able to do this. Other people would be dropping out. Other people would be taking 2 weeks off. Other people would be quitting the game and not continuing. Now, maybe this is some kind of like defensive mechanism, or maybe to some level, there is going to be some truth to that. I know a lot of people who have played poker for a long time who have ended up quitting the game. And the reason that they have quit the game often is because that they've gone through a downswing that they were unable to psychologically or financially, I guess, manage. Now, financially aside, like that is not an issue for me. Mental side, I would say that like to continue showing up when I've experienced the things that I've experienced this year, and maybe I'm tempting the poker gods when I say this, puts me in a spot that I feel I can overcome anything that is thrown at me in poker. I may live to regret saying that, but that is just where I am at the moment and where I have been at this year. Now, that isn't to say that this year at times hasn't been really difficult in showing up to play, but again, I feel really proud about the compassion that I've showed myself, which is on some of those days, and we're talking like one in every maybe month or something like that, or 6 weeks even, I may say, okay, you know what, I was meant to grind tomorrow, but actually I need to take the day off, or even 2 days off to recoup and kind of refresh myself. That has been super, super, super valuable this year. And in maybe like a few months time, I actually really would like to make a full mental game video. For those of you who don't know, I'm actually a psychotherapist as well, or I'm a trained psychotherapist and was working with clients before I moved to Australia. So I really want to kind of create a video that kind of encompasses both psychotherapy and also mental game in poker. But let me know if you want to see that in the comments below. So I think a large part of the reason that my mentality has been so good this year is because outside of poker, life has been so great in 2024. But one of the main things that's been super positive outside of poker this year has been this YouTube channel, which ironically is me talking about how badly poker has gone a lot of the time. But I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's been watching the videos this year. One thing that always stands out to me is when I go to my YouTube comments and respond to as many of you as possible, it is so overwhelmingly positive. Now, I just want to remind people, the poker space in general is not a very positive place. It can be toxic, it can be extremely competitive. People can be outright dicks to one another. And obviously we've done a little bit of trimming around the edges, but I just want to share my gratitude with you for this really positive and supportive community that hopefully is just at the beginning and will continue to grow as well. So just very briefly, I want to talk about what I have in store for 2025 and what my hopes are / goals for the year. Honestly, outside of poker, I have absolutely no goals. Life is incredible outside of poker and I want to continue doing the things that I'm doing. Poker, I can't control my results. What I can control is I'm going to continue to turn up. The fire for me to show up this year is so strong. Obviously, I want the results to be good. Obviously, I'm not setting profit goals because I have no control over those things. If we post a losing graph this year, then so be it. As long as I've shown up, as long as I've shown curiosity, I am completely okay with that. The main goals that I have this year are all YouTube based, I would say. I really want to be creating one video every 2 months that is different from the road back to high stakes or just kind of those weekly reviews. So I'd be really interested to hear what people would like for that other type of content. The ideas that I have in mind so far are a mental game video, but I just want to say I want to do that a little bit later down the line if and when I've kind of dug out of the downswing, as I feel sadly people are results oriented. It kind of has more credibility if things have kind of gone better and I've overcome the adversity. And then another video idea I have is a fun kind of challenge, trying to get from 2NL to 2KNL in one day or something like that. Something a little bit more for newer audiences and that kind of thing. So I think that feels like a good place to leave 2024 in the past and look forward to 2025. If you haven't already, please do go ahead and drop me a sub. But until next time, take care and I'll see you at the tables.